Okay.
Go ahead. Now we're ready.
I will call to order the Manistee City Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, May 11th, 2021, at 2:30 at a virtual via Zoom. How's that? And would we call the roll then? Who? Do we have a secretary?
I can do it if you want. So.
Well, it's up to you.
Well, I was trying to print something here. Hang on just a second. It's being stubborn. Here it comes.
Be careful.
All right, so we'll call the roll. So Councilmember Yoder, or not Councilmember, Commission Member Yoder.
Yes.
Commission Member Memberto.
But we have to sit. Okay.
And Commission Member Pomeranke. So we have 3 of the 5 members here.
Yep.
We have a quorum.
All right. Oh. All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, then moving ahead, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. At this time, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority can act to approve the agenda. I would need a motion to that effect.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, motion made and seconded by Shelley.
You're muted, Shelley.
Yeah.
There we go. I'll second.
There you go. I kind of figured you would. All right, so any more discussion over the motion? If not, would you call the roll for approval?
We can, sure. Authority Member Memberto.
Yes.
Authority Member Pomeranke.
Yes.
And Chair Yoder.
Yes. All right, moving along. There you go. Moving along then to public hearings. We have none scheduled, correct?
Correct.
Then we'll move down to public comments. And at this time, the chair will ask if there's any public comments out there. So Ed, you would have to be in control of that, right?
Yeah, and there's nobody else in the meeting, so we're good there. I didn't get any correspondence either. Whoops, that's the next one. No public is present.
No public comment. Moving down to correspondence. At this time, the chair will ask if there's any correspondence has been received to be included in the record.
And there's been no correspondence.
No correspondence. Then we'll move down to the approval of the minutes. At this time, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority can act to approve the November 17, 2021 meeting minutes.
We need a motion.
Okay. Again, I would need a motion and a second.
Roger, I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second
Okay.
it.
All right. Any discussion over the motion? If you'd call the roll.
All right, Authority Member Memberto.
Yes. Yes.
Authority Member Pomeranke.
Yes.
Chair Yoder.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
And then, all right, and then we'll move down to financial reports. At this time, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority can act to approve the financial reports. And we'll start, Ed, I'm assuming you have all the numbers.
Yeah, can you all see the screen that I'm sharing with the balance sheet on it right now?
I can.
Yes, and I read through them all.
Mm.
You can.
All right. Yeah, I can see it.
All right, so the rightmost column shows our position. Basically, we have quite a bit of cash in the account, but that's only because I haven't distributed out the tax captures payable to the different developers. So even though there's 113,000 in cash, we owe almost 90,000 in tax capture payable. I don't pay those out until I settle up with the county treasurer for tax settlement. So those will probably get paid out in early July to the developers. We do have an invoice for 22,000 that we've invoiced Little River Holdings for them to continue through the Brownfield process for the Gateway project. And you'll see some of the bills that we've incurred because of that, but I'm expecting payment shortly. I did talk to Tom St. Dennis about that. The next report is the revenue and expenditure report. There really isn't a whole lot on there. Year-to-date balance for charges for service is 24,000. That's comprised of $2,000 that we received for the preliminary application for the Gateway, and then, as I mentioned, the 22,000 that we billed them that we're waiting on for the various fees as are outlined in our policy. And then we've paid, it shows $560 on membership, but a good portion of that is a prepaid, so that should be, when that's adjusted, around $300 by membership in the Michigan Economic Development Association of Michigan. So again, we just really haven't had any bills as of yet. Before I go on to the invoices from Fishback, we probably ought to approve those financials.
Well, my next question, you want to take one at a time and approve them?
Well, I guess questions, and then you can approve them together. They don't need to be done separately.
Oh, okay. So are you finished with your report then?
Yep. Are there any questions on any of that?
Yeah. No, I don't have any questions.
I don't either.
Here. Yeah. Shelley, you have any questions?
I don't.
But all right, if there's no questions, then we need a motion to approve the report of financial business, correct?
Correct.
All three of them, right?
Well, just the balance sheet and revenue and expense, and then we'll do the bill separately.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, so we need a motion to that effect.
I can make a motion to approve the financials, including the income statement and the balance sheet.
I will second.
Any discussion over the motion? If not, would you call the roll?
Sure. Member Lamberto.
Yes.
Member Pomeranke.
Yes.
Chair Yoder.
Yes.
Motion approved. Okay, the next thing I have here, and I can let Roman talk about this a little bit, but with the Gateway project, Roman has been really helpful and his staff in attending some meetings with the developer and with the city and the DDA and working through their environmental consultants' findings and helping to prepare information for proposals to Eagle for grant loan stuff and just a variety of things. And they've been holding the bills because we've kind of been waiting to see, where Gateway is going. And I think they've kind of broken the logjam free a little bit. And so, we've invoiced Little River Holdings for their required fees, and we'll need to get an actual invoice from Fishback for some of these costs so that the Brownfield Authority can pay those out. But the fees that we receive from the developer will cover 100% of their costs for the Brownfield Plan, Act 381 work plan when we start to get those, and then also for the grant application. So this is just a breakdown of some of the costs that Fishback has incurred over several months, maybe almost close to a year. And they've also waived a number of their fees as well, which we're thankful for. So, Roman, you want to talk through it just briefly a little bit about what some of that entails?
Sure. And Ed gave a pretty good rundown. Basically, since I'd say maybe May of last year, maybe even a touch before, we've been kind of walking, holding the developer's hand and working with the city and Eagle, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes Energy, and advancing this pretty complex project forward. And it required viewing environmental reports that were associated with property transactions that Little River had in order to assemble their project footprint, then taking that information and presenting it in front of Eagle and evaluating all of the potential environmental costs associated with the redevelopment. So with the known contamination, there's vapor and heat issues, there's soil management issues, there's demolition and asbestos in structures out there, all of which total a pretty significant amount of
We're
cost.
not. So that's,
All of those costs combined will be presented in a final project proposal that we're submitting to the state. So there was time spent in consistently meeting with the state, and we're continuing to do that, knowing that we're getting close to the finish line here. We'll probably see you've seen some of those documents in your packet, but yeah, numerous phone calls, meetings with DDA, because this project's in the footprint of the DDA. Just all the stakeholders, the developer's consultant. So just a project of this size and magnitude definitely requires effort. As Ed alluded to, these costs are kind of captured in the Brownfield Authority's policy as we move through a step-by-step process to funding a project, whether it's through tax increment financing or state grants and loans. The developer will have certain charges, and this project, being the size that it is, will probably max out those fees. So I think this bill structure that has been set up covers the time spent up to this point, and going forward we'll probably just try to get over the finish line and not necessarily have a bunch more costs involved, because the next phase will really be after funding has been awarded from a state agency, and it sounds like we could have upwards of $1.5 million that the state will provide in funding. So that's a little bit out and a little bit, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but that's really what this is focused on.
Muted. There we go. I'm not muted anymore. We'll talk a little bit more about where the project is actually at in the next two agenda items down. But the way the Brownfield Authority works, they previously authorized the administrator to pay, valid and binding bills. And these are all ones that have been anticipated, in our fee structure. So this is not a formal bill, but I wanted the board to see it so they kind of are aware of what's going on. Once I get a formal invoice from Roman and I get the fees from the developer, then I'll go ahead and pay these. And then I've asked Roman to go ahead and bill us, at a minimum monthly moving forward, just so we've got them. And then as we meet, whatever bills that come through and have been paid, we'll put in the packet so the board can see those. I know he has spent a ton of time, and like I say, you can see there's a lot of $0 ones on here where they've waived fees. So again, we're appreciative of that, Roman, and we want to make sure we're fair to you, but thank you for that relief. And like I say, this project, there's no doubt it's going to take it all the way up to the limit of what those developer fees are, because this is going to be an extremely complex project if it comes to fruition. So. Are there any questions, I guess, on the bills?
if I could ask a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So the total bill I see here from Fishbeck, is that what we own, $10,900 at this point?
That's where they're at currently, yep.
And then from there, you're gonna have them bill us on a monthly basis?
We're gonna try to, yeah. I mean, at a minimum every couple of months, but I think that would be better than that way that way nobody's behind and they're not being the bank to the Brownfield Authority, and everybody knows where we stand a little bit better. And, you know, part of the reason that I mean, I kind of dialogue with Roman, you know, every couple of weeks, and you know, we knew there were bills and stuff building up, but it was the kind of the nature of the Gateway project. It was in flux, and it'd be a whole bunch of activity, and then there wouldn't be anything, and then there'd be more activity, and it's kind of how it evolved. But I think we're to a point now where we're going to see more regular progress, and so we're going to need to make sure we're billing more regularly.
Yep. And this is strictly with the Gateway project.
Most of this is the Gateway project. I think there's a little bit, if you look at kind of the summary at the top here, just this general Brownfield consulting. That's some of the stuff that, you know, attendance at our meetings like today, Roman assisted with revising the policy that the board previously approved to kind of streamline it. So there's some money in the budget that covers that sort of thing. And then the rest of it is project based.
Yeah. All right. All right, thank you. I have no other. Shelley, you have anything, question?
No, thank you.
So,
Any other questions regarding the Roman?
Don't think so, no.
All right, so do you want to entertain a motion to approve those bills then, Ed?
yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be the next move, right?
Yep.
All right, so here we are again. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
There you go.
I'll second.
There you go. Any further discussion on the motion to pay the bills under the financial report? If not, would you read the roll then?
Sure. Member Pomeranke,
Yes.
Member Memberto,
Yes.
Chairman Yoder.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
All right, so the financial reports are all taken care of.
Yes, sir.
And then we move to the whole business.
No old business.
All right, then we move to new business. Under new, are you with us, Ed?
Yep.
Okay. And under new business, we have the consideration of the fiscal year 2022 budget. Staff has prepared a budget for the upcoming fiscal year and will discuss it with the Brownfield Authority. At this time, the Brownfield Authority could act to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget.
So what you have in your packet.
There it is. All right. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, what you've got in your packet and up on your screen here is kind of a proposed budget, and this is a little bit challenging this year because we're going to have projects that are overlapping the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30, and I don't expect the Gateway project to be done by then. I don't expect the Lakeshore Motel project to be started necessarily, but those are going to probably overlap between fiscal year 21 and 22 and possibly even into fiscal year 23. So probably what will happen is we're not going to spend everything that I show in the projected column in fiscal year 21. Some of that's going to trickle over into fiscal year 22. And we'll end up having to amend this budget at some point. But for now, the 2022 proposed budget assumes just Lakeshore Motel Brownfield plan, which is likely forthcoming. So it just shows a standard Brownfield or standard complex Brownfield plan. Shows some that's the 20,000. It assumes the BRA administration fee, which the city hasn't always charged the BRA for some of my time, but now that we're getting more activity, we may charge some of that. And then and that'd be the revenues. I'm sorry, BRA administration fee. Back that up. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's the fee that we get for the existing Brownfield plans. So from the brewery plan and the one that's on River Street that's almost done, those plans contribute money back to the Brownfield Authority. On the expense side, we got the money penciled in for operating supplies, which we normally don't have, but we always just pencil something in. We've got Roman's time to do any new brownfield plans. We've got some city staff time. And then we've got the META conferences and META membership fees. So very similar to last year's budget. A lot of it's dependent on how many projects, we get approached on. There's always people that are saying they want to do a brownfield project, but they never, come to the table, so to speak. But I'm pretty sure we'll have the gateway and we'll have a lakeshore plan at a minimum over the next couple of years. So I don't know if you have any questions on that. I can certainly talk about it more. We can get Roman's perspective, but this is something that we need to adopt as a standalone authority. And then, so we can move forward starting July 1 with the new fiscal year.
All right, thank you for that. Are there any questions out there in regards to the budget for 2022?
I have none.
If there are no questions, we would need a motion to approve the budget for 2022. Could I get a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget.
I will second.
Any discussion over the motion? If not, would you call the roll, please, Ed?
Sure. Member Memberto,
Yes.
Member Pomeranke,
Yes.
Chair Yoder,
Yes.
motion approved.
There we go. Okay, moving to staff reports.
Okay.
Staff will update.
Go ahead, sorry.
What's that?
No, go ahead, Roger. I jumped the gun.
Okay. Staff reports. Staff will update the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority on the status of the current projects and any other information the commission should be aware of. Our two projects that I see are the Gateway and the Hampton Inn.
Yep, so I'll start with the Gateway project. So we've been working, and when I say we, there's a lot of parties involved, but the city and the Downtown Development Authority / Chamber of Commerce, the developer, the developers' partners, and Roman from Fishback and Eagle, and there's been a lot of eyes on this project. And
Yeah.
the current status is that the developer, Little River Holdings, is very anxious to show some progress on the ground. And so we've kind of changed gears a little bit and are pursuing Eagle loan and grants for both petroleum and hazardous substances to be able to basically demo the entire site, so all the properties that they own there, and do some remediation in order to get the site kind of more shovel ready for the development partners that finally materialize. And I know that there's been lots of conversations with Roman and the staff from Eagle and with Susan Wenzlick, who's a colleague of Roman's. And I think those have been very productive. The project plan that I put in the packet, I think is like close to a final draft. And I know Roman and Susan just met with you earlier, and so Roman, why don't you fill us in on where we're at with that?
Sure. Just recently, within the past month or so, we've been having weekly meetings every Monday with Eagle and the district staff based out of Cadillac, who manages Manistee projects, and the coordinator that has been assigned to this project from the Brownfield program. And then there's also been some special assistance from other Eagle staff in just making sure that we fully understand what Eagle is looking for. A project proposal, again, is something that gets vetted by the entire Brownfield unit. So there's about 10 individuals that will review that. And the coordinator would like it to be as buttoned up as possible. We are running up against a time deadline. of June 1, where the state likes to receive these project proposals before they enter into kind of their end of fiscal year, wrapping things up, and they don't really want to start anything after that. So we've been really diligent in trying to assemble a comprehensive and accurate picture of what's going on with respect to this project. So it'll minimize questions and ease it through the step-by-step process. And ultimately, we're desiring a request to, or an invitation to submit a formal application. So this is kind of the initial step, and it walks through every parcel, walks through the history. The state will look at liability. They will look at the activities that are proposed on those parcels from an environmental standpoint in the context of the projected investment, and they will determine how much they are willing to fund and where that money comes from. We're dealing with contaminants that are petroleum related, that are from past gasoline stations. The House of Flavors site was a former gasoline station. Cadillac Heating and Plumbing had some underground tanks. The Memory Lane had historical tanks. And then the dry cleaner site, former dry cleaner site, American Cleaners, had solvents that were discharged into the subsurface. So that's a separate pot of money. So we're just delineating where these funds would come from. And of course, these pots have grants and loans. So it's been kind of an interesting project from that perspective of trying to delineate where things would be split up. So it was kind of agreed that we would just land somewhere, and then EGO can figure out exactly where it'll end up. The thought as of yesterday was that they will attempt to fund as much of this with grant resources, which is fantastic. A loan is more risky, and in both of those resources, the city has to be the applicant. It isn't the developer. So in the loan context, well, it is a little more risky. There's still a mechanism for how that loan gets paid back. So the investment from a developer, the new tax increment that's generated from the redevelopment, that can be captured through TIF, if you're familiar with that, and then that will pay the loan back. It's a low interest loan. There's no payments in the first 5 years. There's no interest accrual in the first 5 years. After that, it's 1.5% interest. So it's a pretty good mechanism. But if grant resources can be obtained, that's the goal. So it was roughly proposed that they would try to get $1 million in grants, with the remainder coming as loan, and that remainder is roughly 400,000. So many times we create line items for these activities, and these activities, when they actually occur, might not be as high as estimated. We do have contingency in there, which allows for 15% to be estimated on the overall award. So there's extra buffer in there. But yeah, as Ed's highlighting down there, the 1.4, and we've kind of split it up between grant and loan, but optimistic that most of that would be in grant. And this process is a few months. Once we get this initial step in, it takes about 3 months to process it. So it doesn't happen overnight. We're trying as diligently as we can to get this finalized and in their hands, and then the clock can start ticking. I know that's fast and a lot of information, but open to questions and can go through things in more detail if requested.
I don't have any questions. I read through the entire document, so.
I did.
Well, maybe. Yeah, are there My only question might be, rather than like the man just said, I know it's a lot of information, why don't we be informed then maybe on a 3-month basis what's going on rather than wait till we're overwhelmed with so much? Would that be possible? Anybody out there?
Sure. Uh,
What do you think of that, Ed?
I was muted because my fan coil unit keeps kicking on. So Roger, I understand that, and I think we will be meeting more frequently. I mean, this grant loan
No.
program has been, it's been discussed, and I'm sure we've mentioned it to the board before. It's just that now there's a sense of urgency because of the deadlines. But Roman, I think the applicant that we had talked about is going to be the city of Manistee, not the BRA, correct? Because that's how George prepared the other agreement.
yeah, we can adjust that. I guess if it is a grant, you may want to have the authority, but yeah, if you want it to all go into the city, that's fine. We can switch that up.
So there's the discussion point. I mean, the Brownfield Authority is going to have to be involved because ultimately they have to approve the Brownfield plan. That's going to capture the TIF. That's going to generate revenue to pay back these loans potentially. But the city itself has to put a commitment that it will basically allow for a lien on its statutory revenue sharing if we don't pay this back. So George, the city attorney, was thinking, since the applicant could be either the city or the Brownfield Authority, that maybe it'd be better for the city directly to be that applicant. And I thought that's what I heard you say, is that it needs to be, the city needs to be the applicant. Is that correct, Roman?
Yeah, that would be probably the best scenario for the loan. And then I guess to keep it, all in, it would make sense to have the grant in there as well.
So the reason I mentioned that is the last time we had one of these, I think, was for Reeve Riley, the asphalt terminal. And that actually went through the Brownfield Authority, but then the city ended up having to approve it anyway. So it doesn't need to go through the BRA. And in this case, because the revenue sharing, it's probably easier to go through the city. But the Brownfield Authority definitely needs to be aware of what's going on, because ultimately there's going to be a request for a Brownfield plan to capture a whole bunch of tax increment financing revenue to help not only pay back this loan, but build some infrastructure, do additional remediation, and some of those things. This is just the first step in this project, and it was all going to happen all at once, but the Little River Holdings, because of a situation where basically they're looking to get a different developer on board now than what they were using before, really wants to show some progress to the community. And so they are very anxious to get these buildings down, get some of the contamination addressed, and have that site ready for the developer, but more importantly, to show the community that there's progress being made. And so that's the impetus, that and the June 1st deadline, obviously, because the idea of having a Brownfield grant loan has been talked about since the inception, and now it's becoming more real. So, but Roger, to your point, we're going to meet more frequently because we're just going to have to. There's going to be a lot more to talk about, and things are starting to accelerate. So I anticipate that at a minimum quarterly, and maybe even every couple of months, we're probably going to be meeting.
And I'm curious, the demo of that site and prep for the developer, how
Yeah.
the time frame they're looking at?
To have the buildings down?
Yes.
They talked about getting started in the fall. So I think if that's the timeline that it's on, that they'll probably be down by, if not the end of the year, at least early in 2020. Does that sound reasonable, Roman?
Yeah, that is. And just to reemphasize, part of the reason it would not happen this summer unless Eagle moves very quickly is they can't proceed until with the eligible activities until the state has awarded the money, and then also until the state has approved a work plan associated with the demolition. So they're kind of on hold for that until that happens.
I think, if I heard you correctly, is based on their fiscal year, some of it?
Yeah, so the state, if we were to get this in the next week or so, which is what we're planning on, the whole application would probably get this is gonna get some significant review time from the folks in Lansing, so it's probably June, late June before the application, so, you know, you factor about another 90 days after that. And that would probably be a good guess on when this would be awarded.
All right, are there any other questions from Roman or Ed?
So I just want to just reiterate that this is the
If-
first step.
If not,
Roger, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me, Roman?
I sure can.
yes, yes,
So I just want to.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, this is just the first step in the process. I mean, there's a lot of pieces to this project and this development, so there'll be more information forthcoming, but since things are starting to break free on the log jam, we thought it was important to meet and talk about it. Next item, Roger.
All right, thank you. Yes, I'm sure we probably will. Now things are gonna open up. But anyhow, thank you.
So
Yes, the next item is a Hampton Inn.
Yep. And on that project, obviously, they're still in front of the planning commission. And I think they've kind of put a hold on anything until they can get the planning commission approval, which could happen as soon as this month at some point. If that happens, then, you know, there's a parallel conversation with the city on, you know, what kind of incentives might be available and make sense for that site. And some of those are going to involve potentially the Brownfield Authority. So I wanted to just bring that to your attention that they're likely going to be asking for some kind of a brownfield plan down there to address a few things, primarily not so much contamination, but demolition and then some infrastructure that might be eligible. It won't be nearly as big of an ask as they're doing at the Gateway, because we're also leveraging some other tools with the Lakeshore Hotel / Hampton Inn, but it will involve the Brownfield Authority at some point. But those conversations are even earlier on. They're earlier on than the Gateway project, but they're likely to happen faster than the Gateway project. The Hampton Inn is going to be a much more compressed project than I think Gateway is going to be. So there'll be more information. Thad and I actually have a meeting scheduled tomorrow internally to talk through a few things, and then we're going to be scheduling a meeting with the developer to talk through, and the developer's attorney, see what makes sense and how they want to proceed. And obviously they're going to wait till they get the PUD approved if that happens, and then after that there'll be more stuff happening. But that's kind of where we're at with it. You know, they needed to get us some more information. We needed to get them some more information. We've gotten that, so we just need to kind of put it together and reconvene. And we'll be scheduling that meeting in the next couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, all right. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Shelley, is that correct that they're talking of holding a meeting on the 20th of this month, the planning commission?
I know it's next week. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, Ed, that's when we were supposed to gather again, but yeah, okay, thank you for that update, and yeah, that'll be, more information will be forthcoming. You have anything else on Ed?
I don't.
We move down to next meeting dates. Is that just going to be up in the air?
Well, we have regularly scheduled meetings for, it's, I think yeah, it's like the second Tuesday of the month, which is what we're doing right now. I think that's.
Yeah.
So if we can just keep those on the calendar, just as a recurring item, then, actually.
This call is needed, maybe?
Yeah, call is needed, but maybe it was the first Tuesday of the month. Hang on, let me see something. Yeah, generally it's the first Tuesday of the month. This one was the second Tuesday. So we've got those kind of as a recurring item, and if people could just keep those on their calendar, that's when I'll try to schedule them. I wasn't able to do it this time, and I noticed the one in July is July 6th, but that's after the 4th, so you know that would work if we needed to do it in July, or June even. But that way we have that date open and available, and then if we need to modify it, we can.
Okay. All right, is that okay with everybody else?
Works for me.
It's good with me.
All right, then, members' discussion. At this point, at this time, the chair will ask members of the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority if they have any items they want to discuss. So I guess we'll start with ladies first. Shelley?
I do not, thank you.
All right, Tom?
I have
Who's the fellow on the floor? Nothing? I don't know. All right, I guess no one else, I have nothing to discuss. So, if nothing else, Ed, do you have anything to say? I don't know. Ed?
It looks
I do
frozen.
not have anything.
You do not have anything. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
There you go. There you go. No discussion. We'll see when Ed calls us again. Thank you and have a good day.
All right, thank you.
You
Thank
as well.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.